Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a special episode of Spectrum discussing the theaterization of Indian armed forces. I have a special guest with me today, Brigadier retired Dr. Tughral Yamin, PhD. Dr. Yamin is the founding member and associate dean of the Center for International Peace and Stability, CIPS, at NUST Islamabad, the only institution teaching peacekeeping in Pakistan. He is a graduate of Command and Staff College, Quetta, the German Command and Staff College, and National Defense University, Islamabad. Dr. Yamin is also currently the honorary colonel of 7 Frontier Force Regiment. He has 3 books to his credit. Dr. Yamin, thank you for giving time to this program. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Zaki Saab, for inviting me, and thank you for your very kind introduction. I am indeed honored.
Sir, the pleasure is all mine. So we begin straight away, sir. You must have heard news since the past 2 or 3 years about this talk of theaterization going on in India. The Indian government, especially the regime of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Bharatiya Janata Party, it aims to establish integrated theater commands. Now, we all know that this is not something new, and this was initially proposed after the Kargil war in the Kargil Review Committee sometime around 99 to 2000. Do you see this as a logical development that was long overdue? Or do you think this revival was necessitated due to regional circumstances over the past few years?
Zaki Saab, in my personal opinion, this is a very ambitious plan, and the sole authorship goes to General Bipin Rawat. He's the fellow who was elevated to the position of Chief of Defense Staff. I think if I am an Indian, perhaps I would appreciate it. If I'm an Indian military officer who has ambitions of becoming a 4-star general or a 5-star general, I would be very happy. But it is really a very, very bad idea. You see, the days of big armies, huge armies is over. You don't have huge armies now. You have to cut the fact. Indian army is a very top-heavy army. It has its present composition. It has its command system where the command commander is a lieutenant general. He has as his chief of staff a lieutenant general, and under him are 2 to 3 corps commanders who are all lieutenant generals. So you see a surfeit of lieutenant generals. You don't need that many generals. If you add layers to your command structure, you're actually making your decision-making process slow and sluggish. So if I am a Pakistani, I would say good, let them add as many layers to their command structures as possible. And another very important thing is that Indian Army is short of junior officers. Junior officers don't want to serve in the Indian Army. Serving in the Indian Army means that they have to be in and out of conflict zones, in and out of zones which are infested by insurgencies. They do not find Indian Army as a good career. It means lesser pace than their compatriots in the corporate sector. India has a booming IT sector where they are doing really very well. They earn very well. And there is a constant danger to their lives. India is currently at the horns of dilemma of how to recruit young officers. They are considering various options such as short service commission for their officers, in which they serve for a few years and then they leave. Having officers for short term is not good. Okay, they'll be saving some money from their pensions, but they'll be losing a lot of money in training them and then losing them out after 5 years or 6 years or 7 years. So I don't think the Indian Army would find many officers down the chain of command. Okay, they'll be having maybe 3 or 4 or 5 more lieutenant generals or maybe even full generals, but they won't be having many junior officers to command. So the problem with bigger command structures is that you have lumbering armies, you will have lumbering theater commands. The days of wide maneuvers which hark back to the days of Second World War are over. You now have slim, smart forces, modular forces, and most countries are emphasizing on special operations, including the United States of America, which the Indians very fondly like to emulate. So I don't think this is a good idea. I think it's waste
So,
of good
but do you
money.
think, sir, that this has been long overdue, or do you think that some regional developments which have been irking India over the past few years suddenly gave rise to this revival of theaterization?
I think this is Bipin Rawat's pet idea. India cannot attack Pakistan with masses of tanks or artillery or air forces. They know it very well that they can't do that to Pakistan. They got a very befitting reply in February last when they tried to send in two aircraft and they were shot down. And then we had this spectacle of Abhinandan being returned to India via Wagah border. So the days of fighting with conventional forces is out. You see, there's nuclear deterrence in place. They cannot attack Pakistan. They know very well that even with a conventional attack, they'll get a bloody nose. And we have, when we say all options are on the table, that means that we are prepared to to hit the nuclear button. So I don't think this is a good idea. It might be a good idea for Bipin Rawat or some other aspiring generals. This theaterization thing, in my opinion, is a no-brainer. It may be a no start. It may be a no starter. I don't know if Bipin Rawat has his way or Modi has his way. Perhaps Modi might think that this will give his military some recognition as a big force.
Sort
But
of a prestige, maybe.
maybe it's a prestige thing, but you see, if you look at the American armed forces, it's not ground forces. It is the number of fleets that they have, and they have seven fleets, and now they're thinking of adding another fleet to it. So India does not have that kind of capability. Even China does not have that kind of capability. China does not have, at the moment, one carrier force. So if you have to project power, you project power through fleet forces. Another example that I give, I think it was yesterday when when the United States of America sent two B-52 bombers, large uh, bombers, just to show Iran that they can still move their air forces halfway around the world, and they can drop conventional weapons, they can drop nuclear weapons. India does not have that kind of capability. So adding theater posters, what will it do? What possible advantage will it have? I don't think they can even raise more battalions to even if they raise, if, for example, if they recruit more soldiers, who will be the platoon commanders? Who will be the company commanders? Who will be the battalion commanders? You see, already the Indian command structure at battalion level is aging. They have a full colonel as a battalion commander. In our army, we have a lieutenant colonel. And the lieutenant colonel is a very young man. He becomes a lieutenant colonel at the age of, say, 36, 37, 38. And
Yes.
he commands for 2 or 3 or 4 years. So he is perhaps as a young person in his 30s or maybe early 40s is commanding a battalion. In the Indian Army, they're commanding with full colonels who may be in their 40s with a lieutenant colonel as a second of command. This is not a good situation. You see, you've got to have young people at the helm of affairs. And by adding layers of command, just be having more lieutenant generals or maybe a few odd generals, they would not be improving the efficiency of their commands. They will be actually delaying decision making. So this is a very bad thing for Indians, and if they want to do it, they should. It will be a good thing for Pakistan. They will be up with archaic systems of command, with decision making will be difficult, where will be more generals trying to make decisions, and when you have more generals making decisions, you might be having disagreements also. For example, if you have number of lieutenant generals of equal seniority as a corps commander, as a command commander or a theater commander, you might be finding it difficult to enforce your decisions. I don't think this is a good decision. If they did want to do it, they should go ahead. I don't think that will matter to Pakistan at all. In any way, our defense budget is very limited. We cannot replicate by making more commands. Uh, we have a number of commands in our system also, but in those commands we don't have any core commander. The command commander is the lieutenant general, and he does not have any core commander. And in times of war, they will be having some few corps will be coming under his command. But this is basically same system which have been practicing for a very long time. So it will be very expensive for the Indians. It will be the decision making would be delayed. Layers of command would be added. Uh, Good thing for Pakistan, bad thing for India. I don't think this will serve any purpose.
Right,
This is
sir. And if I may go a bit, if I may become bit specific when we talk about the command structure, particularly the one which is directly concerning Pakistan. Now, according to credible media reports in the Indian press, they say that there will be a dedicated and restructured Western Theatre Command, which will stretch. You can just imagine the geographic scope. It will stretch from Indira Col on Saltoro Ridge, which is in Siachen Glacier in the north, till the tip of Gujarat in the south, with a headquarter likely in Jaipur, Rajasthan. So basically, we are talking integration of existing north, south, western, and to some extent western commands. So the entire eastern border, basically, of Pakistan. So, do you believe, what in your view, do you think are the challenges for land forces on both sides, keeping in view, just for the sake of hypothesis, if we assume that this geographic scope will actually be the area of responsibility for this new envisaged theater command? Do you think that that wide scope is going to create a lot of problems?
it is going to create a lot of problems for India. For example, you saw that in this summer, 14 Corps had a very hard time fighting the Chinese. It was not a hot combat; they were fighting with stones and sticks. But even that, in that encounter in June this year, in Galwan Valley and other places in Ladakh uh, and those areas, the 14 Corps commander had a very hard time, and he did not perform very well. And if now uh, uh, the army chief Narawan has to look behind his shoulder to Bipin Rawat, so I think it will complicate issues for him. In wars, you need quick decisions, instant decisions. If a commander is autonomous, it's better for him. If his field of view is very large, it will become very difficult for him to look at all options. So I think the command system was better. Theater system will be difficult. It will add to India's problem, and I think it will be to Pakistan's advantage. You can take on Indian corps, whatever integrated commands. They were already talking about integrated command. You see, the
Sir,
so-called proactive approach that they were adopting, the cold start doctrine, they were already
yes,
talking
sir.
about 8 integrated commands, and the Air Force was also involved, the Army was also involved. Yes, if you're in the south, the Navy was also involved. But you see, can the Indians actually attack Pakistan in this manner? I don't think. You see, the war has shifted to more technical means. You're talking about artificial intelligence. You're talking about autonomous platforms. You're not talking about huge cores or even integrated uh, commands attacking Pakistan. And our threshold for nuclear war is so low that if we see that they are actually infringing on our limited thresholds, even the shallow maneuvers will not be tolerated. I know as a battalion commander on the line of control, I was under instructions not to lose even 1 centimeter of my land. So when you have that kind of order to do or die, not to lose even a centimeter, how can you fight a war with the? We have layers of defenses on our side, and we know how to fight India. They couldn't fight with the Chinese in the high mountains, and they got a bloody nose. And when the Abhinandan came in and had himself disgraced over a cup of tea, would they be sending more people to have tea at our langar? They should have a heart. This is all nonsense. They just try. This is a what we will call Urdu a hawa. They are trying to create a hawa, big hawa, by raising theater commands. Theater commands cannot make any difference. It's training that matters. It is motivation that matters. And if you don't have young commanders down the chain of command, is Bipin Rawat going to fight himself, or he's going to take his theater commanders or corps commander into battle? He can't do that. He, he needs fresh blood on the battleground. So that's what my opinion is.
Sir, when we talk about the strategic planning process in India, obviously there are a lot of bureaucratic hurdles going in place. And speaking of General Bipin Rawat, whom you've mentioned, he claims that the theaterization process, this is actually quite an ambitious claim. He says it will be completed by within 3 years. So we're talking about around the end of 2023, if we are to believe that that can actually happen within 3 years. So, in view of the bureaucratic red tapeism in India and differences of opinion among tri services, the Indian Air Force in particular has reservations about theaterization. Do you consider the time frame given by General Bipin Rawat to be realistic?
I don't think so. It's realistic. Bipin Rawat is being overambitious. Perhaps he wants an extension in his career. He's already got one extension. He was chief of army staff, and at the time of his retirement, he was elevated to the position of chief of defense staff. This is just gimmickry. The Indian bureaucratic system, their army is known to be very, very sluggish. Look what they did with their main battle tank, Arjun. It has not still reached fruition. There are so many uh, issues with their bureaucracy. They can't move an inch. They have problems, and at the top of it, their parliamentary oversight. Okay, maybe it's good. They also make it difficult for making any decision in quick time. I don't think he can do it in three years. I don't think he can do it in 10 years, perhaps. uh, Somebody else would be able to do it. But I don't think his thinking is in keeping with modern times. You don't want bigger armies. You want smaller units. You want special services, special operation cells. You don't need commands and theater commands and all that. That is a, that was a war of the previous century. In this century, we want small modular units that can go in and come back quickly. The Indians have been talking about surgical strikes. We have not been talking about surgical strikes. The surgical strike, really, if they mean business, that is the war of today. I hope my answers made sense to you. I don't think this is a good idea that India has embarked upon. No, not a good idea for them. Maybe a good idea for us. Okay.
Sir, thank you very much for your time, sir. It was a pleasure to
Thanks.
have you.
Pleasure was all mine.